Sometimes the smallest moments contain the biggest miracles. On a quiet Tuesday morning at Hope Haven Youth Shelter in Los Angeles, the air conditioning hummed steadily as teenagers shuffled through their daily routines. Some were heading to the study room for their online classes, while others were gathering in the common area, their shoulders carrying the invisible weight of their circumstances. None of them knew that this ordinary day would become one they'd remember for the rest of their lives. The shelter had seen better days. The walls, though clean, showed signs of wear, and the furniture had that well-loved look that comes from years of use. But there was something special about this place, a warmth that went beyond the physical structure. It came from the hearts of the young residents who, despite their challenges, managed to find reasons to smile and dream of better tomorrows. 10 years ago, this building had been nothing more than an abandoned warehouse in a forgotten corner of the city. That was before a certain basketball legend had walked through its doors and seen not what it was, but what it could become. Magic Johnson's donation had transformed the empty shell into a haven of hope, a place where young people could find not just shelter, but a chance at a future. The kids who lived there now didn't know this history. To them, it was just home, a temporary one, perhaps, but home nonetheless. They went about their morning routines, some still yawning as they made their beds, others already deep in conversation over breakfast. In the kitchen, the smell of pancakes and coffee filled the air as the staff prepared for another day of caring for their young charges. Among them was Michael, a 16-year-old with dreams bigger than the circumstances that had brought him here. He sat at one of the communal tables, absent-mindedly stirring his cereal while sketching basketball plays in his worn notebook. Basketball was his escape, his passion, the one thing that made him feel like he could soar above the challenges life had thrown his way. The shelter's basketball court, though modest, had become his sanctuary. Every morning before breakfast, he'd be out there, practicing his shots, perfecting his technique, letting the rhythm of the bouncing ball drown out the echoes of his past. The other kids called him Magic, not because he played like the legend, but because he never gave up, always believing in the magic of possibility. What Michael didn't know was that his dedication hadn't gone unnoticed. The shelter's security cameras had captured his early morning practices, and through a series of connections, those videos had made their way to someone who knew a thing or two about dedication and dreams. The morning continued as usual. The shelter's director, Ms. Angela, moved through the common areas with her clipboard, checking on the kids, offering encouraging words, and ensuring everything ran smoothly. She seemed a bit more energetic than usual, her eyes occasionally darting to the clock, but none of the residents noticed anything out of the ordinary. Around 10 o'clock, a group of younger kids gathered around the television in the common room for their daily educational programming. The older teens were in their classes or working on job applications. The routine of the shelter moved like a well-oiled machine, each person playing their part in the daily symphony of survival and hope. But there was an undercurrent of excitement among the staff, subtle glances exchanged, whispered conversations that stopped when residents came too close. Something was different about today, but they maintained their poker faces, knowing that the surprise would be worth the wait. Just before noon, as the lunch preparations began in the kitchen, a black SUV pulled up outside the shelter. The security guard at the front desk straightened his uniform and tried to contain his smile. Through the glass doors, a familiar silhouette appeared, tall, confident, with that same magnetic presence that had commanded basketball courts for years. Magic Johnson stood there for a moment, taking in the building that his generosity had helped create. His eyes scanned the worn but well-maintained facade, the basketball court visible from the parking lot, the signs of life and hope that emanated from every corner. He adjusted his jacket, checked his watch, and nodded to his assistant. It was time. Inside, life continued as normal. The lunch crowd was beginning to gather, the smell of cooking food drawing residents from their various activities. Michael had just finished his online math class and was heading to the court for his usual lunchtime practice session. He carried his basketball like a precious treasure, his mind already on the new moves he wanted to perfect. The front doors opened, and Magic Johnson stepped into the shelter. The reaction was not immediate. It took a few seconds for the first person to recognize him, for the whispers to start, for the energy in the room to shift. But when it did, it was like a wave of electricity moving through the building. "Is that No way. Magic Johnson? The whispers turned to excited murmurs, then to outright exclamations of surprise and joy. Kids who had been heading to lunch stopped in their tracks. Those who were sitting stood up. Phones appeared in hands, though no one dared to approach yet, the moment too surreal to break. Magic's smile, that famous, infectious grin that had lit up countless basketball courts and television screens, filled the room. He stood there, taking in the faces of the young people who called this place home, seeing in each of them the potential for greatness that he had always believed in. "Hello, everyone," he said, his voice carrying the same warmth and charisma that had made him not just a basketball legend, but a beacon of hope for countless young people. "I heard there was some magic happening in this place, and I had to come see for myself." The room erupted in excitement. Kids who had been too cool to show emotion moments before were now barely containing their joy. Staff members who had kept the secret were finally able to share in the excitement, their faces beaming with pride at being able to give their residents this moment. But it was Michael's reaction that caught Magic's eye. The young man had just walked in from the hallway, basketball in hand, and frozen in place. The ball slipped from his fingers, bouncing once, twice, before rolling to a stop at Magic's feet. The NBA legend picked it up, spinning it on his finger with the same ease that had made him famous. "I hear you've been putting in some serious work on that court out there," Magic said, looking directly at Michael. "How about we see what you've got?" The other residents gasped. Michael stood there, unable to speak, his dreams and reality colliding in a moment that felt impossible. But Magic Johnson wasn't done. He looked around the room, taking in all the faces, seeing the hope, the struggles, the potential in each one. "But first," he continued, "I want to hear your stories. I want to know what magic you're creating in your own lives. Because that's what this place is about, not just having a roof over your head, but having the space to dream, to grow, to become who you're meant to be." The next few hours would change lives forever, but not just because a celebrity had walked through the door. It would change lives because sometimes, when you're fighting your hardest battles, when you're holding on to your dreams with everything you've got, the universe sends you a reminder that magic is real, that hope is worth holding on to, and that no matter where you come from, greatness is always possible. As Magic Johnson moved through the shelter, greeting each resident, learning names, sharing stories, and offering words of encouragement, the atmosphere transformed. This wasn't just a visit from a famous person. It was a reminder that someone out there cared, that their struggles were seen, that their dreams mattered. The security cameras that had captured Michael's morning practices now recorded a different kind of magic, the kind that happens when hope meets opportunity, when inspiration meets dedication, when the past meets the future in a moment of pure possibility. And this was just the beginning. As Magic Johnson stood in the middle of the shelter he had helped create, surrounded by young people whose lives were about to change, he knew that the real story was just starting to unfold. Because sometimes, the greatest magic of all is the kind that happens when someone believes in you before you believe in yourself. The morning that had started like any other was transforming into something extraordinary, a testament to the power of kindness, the importance of giving back, and the magic that happens when dreams are given room to grow. But as the excitement built and the stories began to flow, no one could have predicted just how much this visit would change the lives of everyone in Hope Haven Youth Shelter. The common room of Hope Haven Youth Shelter had transformed into something extraordinary. The usual afternoon lull was replaced with an electric energy as Magic Johnson made his way through the space, stopping to speak with each young resident. His presence filled the room not just with star power, but with genuine warmth and interest in every story he heard. Magic settled into one of the worn couches, making himself at home as kids gathered around him. Some sat on the floor, others perched on nearby chairs, all drawn into the orbit of his charismatic presence. His smile hadn't dimmed since he walked through the door, and his eyes sparkled with genuine interest as he listened to each voice, each dream, each struggle. "Tell me about your dreams," he said, looking around the circle. "What keeps you going when things get tough?" His question hung in the air for a moment before hands started raising tentatively. The first story came from a quiet girl in the corner who wanted to become a doctor. Then came another from a boy who dreamed of opening his own restaurant. Each story unleashed more courage in the others to share. Michael sat slightly apart from the group, still processing the reality of his basketball hero being here in the flesh. Magic noticed his hesitation and called him over. "I heard you're out there on the court every morning at dawn. That's the kind of dedication that builds champions. What drives you to practice so hard?" The room fell silent as Michael found his voice. "Basketball? It's more than just a game for me," he started, his words gaining strength as he spoke. "When I'm on the court, I'm not just a kid in a shelter. I'm someone who can create something beautiful, someone who can control their own destiny. Every shot I make, every move I perfect, it's like writing my own story." Magic nodded, understanding reflected in his eyes. "I know exactly what you mean. Basketball was my escape too, my way to dream bigger than my circumstances. But you know what makes your story even more special? You're not just playing for yourself. I've heard how you teach the younger kids here, how you use basketball to help them believe in themselves too." The other residents nodded in agreement. A younger boy spoke up, "Michael helped me with my layups when nobody else would. He stays after his own practice to work with anyone who asks." Other voices joined in, sharing stories of Michael's quiet leadership, his constant encouragement, his unwavering belief in others even when he was struggling himself. Magic stood up, his imposing height balanced by his gentle demeanor. "That's what real magic is about, not just what you do for yourself, but what you do for others. Each one of you has that same power inside you. Every time you help someone else, every time you choose hope over despair, every time you work toward your dreams despite the obstacles, you're creating magic." He moved toward the shelter's small library area, where certificates and achievement awards were displayed on a bulletin board. Success isn't just about making it big or becoming famous. It's about making a difference where you are, with what you have. Each one of you is already doing that in your own way. The conversation shifted as Magic began sharing stories from his own journey, not just the highlights that everyone knew, but the struggles, the doubts, the moments when giving up seemed easier than going on. He talked about his early days, the challenges he faced, and the people who believed in him when he needed it most. "You know, when I first started the Magic Johnson Foundation, people asked me why I wanted to focus on helping young people in challenging situations. The answer was simple: because I saw myself in every one of them. I saw the potential that just needed a chance to shine." As he spoke, staff members quietly brought in lunch, setting up a buffet-style spread that filled the room with appetizing aromas. Magic insisted on serving alongside the staff, passing out plates, asking about food preferences, making sure everyone got enough to eat. It wasn't about being served, it was about serving others. During lunch, he moved from table to table, continuing conversations, listening to more stories. He heard about academic achievements, artistic aspirations, entrepreneurial dreams. Each story seemed to energize him more, his enthusiasm infectious as he offered advice, encouragement, and sometimes just a sympathetic ear. When he reached Michael's table, Magic pulled out his phone and showed something that made the young man's eyes widen. It was footage from the shelter's security cameras, showing Michael's morning practice sessions. "Your footwork is impressive," Magic commented, "but what really caught my eye was how you adjust your technique based on what didn't work the day before. That's the mark of a true student of the game." The afternoon continued with Magic sharing life lessons that went beyond basketball. He talked about the importance of education, of financial literacy, of giving back to the community. But more than his words, it was his actions that made the deepest impression. The way he remembered everyone's name, the way he focused completely on whoever was speaking, the way he treated each person with dignity and respect. As the conversations continued, Magic's assistant brought in several large boxes. The excitement in the room rose as Magic explained that he had brought some gifts, not just basketball gear and signed memorabilia, but books about business, entrepreneurship, and personal development. "These are tools for your journey," he explained. "Because while I love basketball, I want you to know that your worth isn't measured by what you can do on the court. It's measured by what you can dream and what you're willing to work for." For Michael, there was something special, a worn notebook that Magic pulled from his jacket pocket. "This was my playbook when I was just starting out," he explained, handing it to the awestruck teenager. I want you to have it, not just because of your love for basketball, but because you understand what it means to use your gifts to lift others up. The notebook's pages were filled with plays, strategies, and personal notes written in Magic's own hand. But more than that, it was filled with the kind of wisdom that only comes from experience, notes about leadership, about staying focused under pressure, about using success to create opportunities for others. As the afternoon progressed, Magic made his way to the basketball court, where a crowd quickly gathered. But instead of showing off his own skills, he turned the court into a classroom. He worked with Michael and other interested residents on their technique, offering tips and encouragement. His teaching style was patient and inclusive, making sure everyone who wanted to participate had a chance. Basketball is like life, he explained as he demonstrated a passing technique. It's not just about individual skill, it's about making the people around you better. Sometimes the most important play isn't the shot you make, but the assist you give that helps someone else score. The atmosphere on the court was electric as Magic organized an impromptu game, mixing up teams so that younger and older residents played together. He acted as both coach and referee, ensuring everyone had a chance to contribute. The game wasn't about winning or losing, it was about building confidence, fostering teamwork, and creating memories that would last a lifetime. As the game wound down, Magic gathered everyone center court. "You know what I see when I look at this court?" he asked, his voice carrying to every corner. "I see possibility. I see dreams taking flight. I see young people who might think they're just working on their jump shot, but they're really learning about discipline, dedication, and determination." The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the court, but no one wanted the day to end. Magic's visit had done more than just bring excitement to the shelter. It had brought hope, inspiration, and a reminder that every person's story matters. Looking around at the faces that had become familiar over the course of the day, Magic shared one final thought. Success isn't about where you start, it's about where you're determined to go. Each one of you has something special, something magical inside you. Don't ever let anyone tell you different. And remember, the greatest magic happens when you use your gifts to light the way for others. As the day's activities began to wind down, the impact of Magic's visit was evident in the transformed atmosphere of the shelter. It wasn't just about meeting a celebrity, it was about being seen, being heard, and being valued. In every corner of Hope Haven, seeds of inspiration had been planted, ready to grow into something extraordinary. As the evening approached at Hope Haven Youth Shelter, Magic Johnson wasn't ready to leave just yet. There was something in his expression that suggested the best part of his visit was still to come. The residents and staff gathered in the common room once more, the energy still electric despite the long day of activities and emotions. "Before I go," Magic began, his voice carrying that special mix of authority and warmth that had made him not just a basketball legend, but a successful businessman and philanthropist, "I want to talk about tomorrow. Because while today has been incredible, it's what happens next that really matters." The room fell silent, all eyes fixed on the towering figure who had somehow made each person feel like they mattered. Magic reached into his jacket and pulled out a folder, setting it on the table with deliberate care. "When I first donated to this shelter 10 years ago, I had a vision. But sitting here with all of you today, listening to your stories, seeing your determination, you've given me a bigger vision." He opened the folder, revealing documents that would change lives. The Magic Johnson Foundation is establishing a permanent partnership with Hope Haven. We're not just talking about funding, we're talking about creating opportunities that will transform lives. The announcement was met with murmurs of excitement, but Magic wasn't finished. "First, we're establishing the Hope Haven Scholarship Program. Every resident who maintains their grades and demonstrates commitment to their personal growth will be eligible for college scholarships. But this isn't just about academics, it's about believing in your dreams enough to work for them." Ms. Angela, the shelter's director, wiped tears from her eyes as Magic continued. "We're also bringing in mentors, not just for basketball, but for every field you're interested in. Business, medicine, technology, arts, whatever your dream is, we're going to connect you with someone who's living it." The excitement in the room was palpable as Magic detailed more initiatives. "We're upgrading the facilities, Not just the basketball court, but everything. New computers for the study room, better equipment for the vocational training programs, and a new media room where you can learn digital skills, video production, and more. He turned to Michael, who sat straight-backed, hardly daring to breathe. And for those of you interested in sports, we're not just talking about playing, we're talking about understanding the business of sports, the management side, the broadcasting side. Every aspect that makes the game possible. But the biggest announcement was yet to come. Magic's expression grew even more serious, his voice carrying the weight of possibility. We're also establishing the Hope Haven Future Fund. Every resident will have a savings account opened in their name, with an initial deposit from the foundation. As you participate in programs, maintain your grades, and contribute to the shelter community, more deposits will be made. By the time you're ready to leave Hope Haven, you'll have a financial foundation to build on. The room erupted in gasps and exclamations. This wasn't just help, this was transformation. Magic held up his hands, asking for quiet. But here's the most important part. None of this is a handout. Everything we're offering requires your commitment, your hard work, your dedication to becoming the best version of yourself. He moved around the room as he spoke, making eye contact with each person. The magic isn't in the money or the programs, it's in you. These opportunities are just tools. What you build with them is up to you. The next hour was spent explaining the details of each initiative. Magic's team handed out information packets, and Ms. Angela began organizing sign-up sheets for different programs. The excitement was tempered with purpose. This wasn't just a celebrity making promises, this was a concrete plan for change. As the residents digested the news, Magic shared more personal insights. You know, when I first started in business, a lot of people thought I was crazy. Stick to basketball, they said. But I knew that life is bigger than any one thing. That's what I want for each of you, to understand that your current circumstances don't define your future. He gestured to the basketball court visible through the windows, now gilded by the setting sun. That court out there, it's not just for playing games. It's where you learn about teamwork, about picking yourself up after a fall, about celebrating others' successes as much as your own. These are lessons that will serve you in whatever path you choose. The practical aspects of the new initiatives began to take shape. Staff members started scheduling one-on-one meetings with residents to discuss their interests and goals. Magic's team set up laptops to begin the process of registering everyone for their savings accounts. The shelter was transforming before their eyes from a place of temporary refuge to a launch pad for future success. Michael, still clutching the playbook Magic had given him, raised his hand. "What if we fail?" he asked, giving voice to the fear that many felt but hadn't dared express. Magic's response was immediate and powerful. "Failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of success. Every shot I missed taught me something about the next shot I needed to make. Every business deal that didn't work out taught me something about the next opportunity. The only real failure is not trying." The conversation shifted to practical matters: how to balance school with new programs, how to set realistic goals, how to measure progress. Magic's business acumen shone through as he explained the importance of planning and accountability. "Dream big," he advised, "but plan smart. Break down those big dreams into daily actions." As the evening progressed, Magic shared more personal stories, not just about his successes, but about his challenges. He talked about his HIV diagnosis and how it taught him about resilience. He spoke about business failures that became stepping stones to greater success. Each story carried the same message: circumstances can be overcome, challenges can become opportunities, and every person has the power to create their own magic. The residents began sharing their own goals with new confidence. A young artist spoke about her dream of opening a gallery. A budding entrepreneur outlined his plan for a technology startup. Each dream was met with practical advice and concrete steps for moving forward. "This is what Hope Haven is really about," Magic declared, gesturing to the increasingly animated discussions happening around the room. "It's not just about having a place to stay, it's about having a place to grow, to dream, to become." The transformation in the shelter's atmosphere was remarkable. Where there had been uncertainty about the future, there was now purpose. Where there had been hesitation, there was now determination. The magic of the day wasn't just in meeting a legend, it was in seeing new possibilities for their own lives. As the evening wound down, Magic had one final surprise. "I'm not just going to drop these programs and disappear," he announced. "I'll be back regularly to check on your progress, to celebrate your successes, and to help you navigate your challenges. This isn't a one-time visit. This is the beginning of a journey we're going to take together." The impact of his words was visible on every face. This wasn't charity, it was investment in human potential. It wasn't a handout, it was a hand up. And most importantly, it wasn't just about today, it was about tomorrow, and all the tomorrows after that. Ms. Angela stood to address the group, her voice thick with emotion. "What we're seeing here today is more than generosity, it's vision. It's believing in the potential of every young person who walks through our doors. It's understanding that sometimes all someone needs is a chance, a belief, a spark of magic to light their way forward." As the day's events began to wind down, the shelter hummed with new energy. Residents clustered in small groups, discussing their plans, sharing their dreams with new boldness. Staff members moved among them, already beginning to implement the new programs, helping to channel the excitement into actionable steps. Magic Johnson stood in the middle of it all, watching the transformation with satisfaction. His visit had done more than bring excitement to Hope Haven. It had brought hope, opportunity, and a concrete path forward. In the faces of every resident, there was a new light, a new determination, a new belief in the magic of possibility. The sun had set outside, but inside Hope Haven, a new day was dawning. The magic that had started with a simple visit was growing into something more powerful, the magic of transformation, of opportunity, of dreams taking flight. And this was just the beginning. The final hours of Magic Johnson's visit to Hope Haven Youth Shelter carried a different kind of energy, not the electric excitement of his arrival or the jubilant atmosphere of the afternoon, but something deeper, more profound. As night fell over Los Angeles, the shelter buzzed with the quiet intensity of dreams taking root and lives beginning to transform. Magic had one final activity planned, something that would cement the day's impact in everyone's hearts. He gathered all the residents in the common room, now softly lit by the evening lights. The space that had witnessed so much throughout the day was about to host its most powerful moment yet. "Before I leave," Magic began, his voice gentle but firm, "I want each of you to do something important. Under your chairs, you'll find envelopes." The residents reached down, finding large manila envelopes taped beneath their seats. Inside each one is a letter, from you, to yourself, 1 year from today. He paused, letting the concept sink in. "But here's the thing, you haven't written these letters yet. We're going to do that right now. These letters are your commitment to your future self, your promise about who you're going to become and what you're going to achieve." The shelter's staff distributed pens and writing materials as Magic continued. "This isn't just about setting goals. It's about creating a vision of your future that's so real, so vivid, that you can't help but work toward it. When you write, I want you to imagine yourself 1 year from now, telling your present self about all the amazing things you've accomplished." The room fell silent as everyone began to write. Magic moved quietly among them, occasionally offering a word of encouragement or a gentle prompt. Some residents wrote quickly, their pens flying across the paper as if their futures couldn't wait to be told. Others took their time, carefully considering each word. Michael sat with Magic's playbook open beside him as he wrote, occasionally glancing at it for inspiration. His letter spoke not just of basketball dreams, but of the leadership role he hoped to take in the shelter's new programs, of the younger kids he planned to mentor, of the business classes he would take to understand the sports industry better. As the letters took shape, Magic shared his own experience with goal setting. "When I was your age, I wrote down my dreams too. Some people laughed. They said they were too big, too impossible. But here's what I learned. When you put your dreams on paper, when you make them real enough to see and touch, they become more than dreams. They become plans." After everyone had finished writing, Magic introduced the next step. "Now, I want you to seal these letters in the envelopes. Ms. Angela will keep them safe for the next year. But before you seal them, I want you to take out your phones, those of you who have them, and take a picture of your letter. This is your daily reminder of the promise you're making to yourself. The rustling of paper and the soft sounds of phone cameras filled the room. Magic continued, 1 year from today, I'm coming back. We're going to open these letters together, and we're going to celebrate how far you've come. But more importantly, we're going to see how many of you didn't just meet your goals, you exceeded them. The impact of his words was visible on every face. This wasn't just about today anymore. It was about tomorrow, and all the tomorrows that would follow. Magic's visit wasn't an endpoint, it was a beginning. As the letters were collected, Magic had one more surprise. The Foundation has arranged for each of you to have a mentor in your field of interest. These aren't just successful people, they're people who understand the journey you're on because they've walked similar paths. They've agreed to guide you, challenge you, and support you as you work toward your goals. He gestured to his assistant, who began distributing profiles of the mentors matched to each resident. These relationships begin tomorrow. Your mentors are committed to regular video calls, in-person meetings when possible, and being available when you need guidance. They're not here to do the work for you, they're here to show you what's possible when you believe in yourself and put in the effort. The excitement in the room was different now, more grounded, more focused. These weren't just dreams anymore. They were becoming plans, with concrete steps and support systems in place to make them reality. Magic moved to the center of the room for his final address. You know, when I first donated to this shelter, I thought I was just providing a safe place for young people to stay. But sitting here with you today, sharing your stories, seeing your determination, I realize we're not just providing shelter. We're building a launch pad for dreams. He looked around the room, making eye contact with each person. Every one of you has something special inside you. Some of you might become athletes, some might become business leaders, artists, doctors, teachers, but all of you have the potential to be extraordinary. And starting tonight, you have the support system to help you get there. The atmosphere in the room was charged with possibility. Magic continued, but I want you to remember something important. Success isn't just about what you achieve for yourself. It's about what you do for others along the way. Each of you has the power to create magic in someone else's life. He gestured to Michael, who stood up, still holding the playbook. Michael here, he already understands this. Every morning, he's not just practicing for himself. He's setting an example, creating a path that others can follow. That's the kind of leadership that changes lives. Michael's eyes were bright with unshed tears as Magic continued. And that's what I expect from each of you. As you grow, as you achieve your goals, I want you to remember to reach back and help someone else up. That's how we create real, lasting change. The evening was drawing to a close, but the energy in the room suggested that something was just beginning. Magic had one final announcement. Starting tomorrow, Hope Haven isn't just a shelter anymore. It's the first of what will become the Magic Johnson Dream Centers, places where young people don't just find safety, but find their purpose, their passion, their path forward. The impact of his words rippled through the room. This wasn't just about them anymore. It was about all the young people who would come after them, all the lives that would be transformed because of what was starting here tonight. Magic's voice grew softer, more intimate. You know, people often ask me what magic really is. They think it's about making impossible shots or winning championships. But real magic? Real magic is what happens when someone believes in you before you believe in yourself. It's what happens when you take that belief and turn it into action. It's what happens in moments like this, when a group of young people decide to rewrite their stories. He looked around the room one last time, his expression full of pride and hope. Tonight, when you go to bed, you might be in the same rooms you slept in last night. But you're not the same person who went to sleep there. Tonight, you're someone who has a plan, someone who has support, someone who knows that their dreams aren't just dreams anymore, they're the first steps toward your future. The residents and staff rose to their feet, applauding not just for Magic, but for themselves, for each other, for the possibilities that now seemed within reach. The sound filled the shelter, echoing off the walls, creating a symphony of hope and determination. As Magic prepared to leave, he stopped at the entrance, turning back one last time. Remember, I'm coming back in a year. But this isn't about impressing me, it's about impressing yourself. It's about discovering just how much magic you have inside you." He pointed to the basketball court, visible through the windows, now dark except for a single light. "That court out there? It's not just about basketball. It's about learning to face challenges, about picking yourself up when you fall, about celebrating others' successes as much as your own. Those are lessons that will serve you no matter what path you choose." The final moments of Magic's visit were spent in individual goodbyes, each resident receiving a personal word of encouragement, a handshake, or a hug. But it was his parting words to the group that would echo in their minds long after he left. Today wasn't about meeting a basketball legend. It was about recognizing the legend in each of you. The magic isn't in my name, it's in your potential, your dreams, your determination to create something extraordinary from whatever circumstances life has given you. As Magic's SUV pulled away from Hope Haven, the shelter glowed with new purpose. The residents gathered at the windows, watching until the taillights disappeared into the night. But unlike other endings, this one felt like a beginning. Inside, Ms. Angela watched as the residents naturally formed groups, already beginning to discuss their plans for tomorrow. Michael had gathered some of the younger kids, playbook in hand, teaching them about more than just basketball. In every corner of the shelter, the magic of possibility was taking root. The day that had started like any other had become a pivot point, a moment when lives changed direction. But the real story was just beginning, in the dreams taking shape, in the plans being made, in the quiet determination to make tomorrow better than today. As the night settled over Hope Haven, the magic remained, not in the memory of a celebrity visit, but in the newfound belief that every person has the power to create their own magic, to write their own story, to transform not just their own life, but the lives of others. And somewhere in Los Angeles, Magic Johnson smiled, knowing that the real magic wasn't in what he had given them, but in what they would now give themselves, the permission to dream big, the tools to achieve those dreams, and the understanding that true success means lifting others as you rise.